What's up everyone, Toy Bro back again, and we're going to do a different video today. We have got a book this time around. Obviously this isn't a toy. This is Toys That Time Forgot, Volume 1 by Blake Wright. This is a book about kind of failed toy lines that never made it into production, kind of mysteries and oddities of the toy world. Really fascinating stuff. I'm not going to go in depth on this thing. I want everybody who has it to read it, people who don't have it to get it and check it out for themselves. But I am going to kind of show off some of the interior stuff here and show you the things that I think are the coolest. Some really interesting stuff in this book. So let's take a closer look. It just starts into what he calls the golden age of toys. And the big thing, and this is what really drew me in when I saw the Kickstarter, and I backed this thing day one, was that there's a big entry on the Dark Crystal toys. And as we know, those came out in one form or another by Funko and Super 7 last year. But these talk about the originals, how the movie just didn't do well enough to justify a release of the figures. Talks about one of the designers, Tim Clark. Really cool guy. So a lot of interesting stuff here. One section that really caught my eye, and honestly, this is just because it's just so weird, are the Mattel Fleas line. So these were like flea type little characters, and they were going to use their other licenses at the time. It just never came to fruition. There were going to be Masters of the Universe characters in this format, which is just the weirdest thing, and these are the goofiest looking toys. We've got stuff about the Crawl action figure line in here, just all sorts of interesting stuff. I mean, I know what Crawl is, but it's nothing I ever really cared about. And then there is a really awesome section on a Sanrio line. Yeah, Sanrio is the company that makes Hello Kitty, but they were going to make a line of kind of sea creatures, and these things look absolutely wild. I would have done anything to get a hold of some of this stuff when I was a kid. And you can't have 80s obscure toys without talking about Sectars. They didn't fail, but they didn't do all that great, so there's some interesting stuff in there with a lot of product shots and just tons of material that most folks have probably never seen before. And then that rolls into Star Wars. One of the backer, the goal for the line was for the book was to have a section on when Star Wars died in the 80s, with around the time the Ewoks and the droid stuff came about, when Kenner tried to pitch their own kind of succession to Star Wars. I actually saw some of these ideas presented at Celebration this year, but it's cool to see some stuff in here and how some of those designs did work their way into the toy line eventually. There's a big section in this book about Hasbro's Tribes line. I have heard of this, but I never knew anything about it really. They actually look pretty cool. I'm not sure that I would have been into them as a kid, but there is definitely a lot of material on what that line could have been, and I think it's really cool stuff. There is a section on the failure of the Bucky O'Hare line, which coincidentally enough is being resurrected thanks to Boss Fight Studios. So we get new Bucky O'Hare stuff, while at the same time I am reading about the failure of the line because they packed way too many characters people didn't care about into those case packs. Kind of killing things off, but there were a lot of figures planned that just never came out. One thing that really kind of jumped out at me that specifically speaks to me is that there was going to be an Oddworld toy line from Resaurus, which that's one of my favorite game series of all time. I don't really care for Resaurus stuff, but I would have absolutely snatched up every single one of these if I had the chance. We've got like Palisades stuff with their Muppets line, with a Sesame Street line. I never bought any of that stuff, but I definitely appreciated it at the time. That line was absolutely amazing. A Sesame Street line just looks really cool. And then Palisades was going to do Ren and Stimpy, and I love Ren and Stimpy. That was probably one of my favorite Nicktoons when I was a kid. This is something I would have absolutely eaten up for sure. Everybody needs a log, so why not? And then they talk about the sale of Sada Toys and how they kind of came and went, what they plan to do, and just all sorts of other stuff. Like I said, I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to spoil this book. I don't want to show everything. But there is just so much in this, and it did really well on Kickstarter. It says Volume 1. I hope there is a Volume 2. There are supposed to be additional books available for sale if you missed the Kickstarter, but the catch is that You know, after the book was done, they seemed to kind of go on vacation. They needed to unwind, and apparently they are based in Texas, by the way it sounded on their Facebook page, and the books were left behind, and obviously we know Texas is in you know, kind of a dire state right now, so they don't seem to know if the books that they left behind are going to make it or not. So I would check back if you're interested in getting this, because, you know, like I said, it was a Kickstarter thing. You had to be involved in the Kickstarter to get it. I will post links down in the description to their Facebook page and the Kickstarter page if you want to see what the original push was and what all the backer goals and what all the rewards were, because they did offer some really cool stuff. I didn't get any of that. I just wanted the book. But this is definitely one of the coolest things I've gotten in quite a while. They did an excellent job. It's a fun read, and if you love toys as much as I do, and I mean, you're watching this video, you probably do, I would urge you to try to track this down and take a look at it. So that is going to do it for this look at the Toys That Time Forgot, a visual history of unproduced action figures, Volume 1. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share down below. Do that whole thing. And until next time, everyone.